Before I begin, I would like to thank all the committee for this opportunity to present this project, and a special thanks to Luís Soares and Marta Frade's support in this journey. The following work embodies information related with the importance of knowledge in the different intervention methods in plaster sculptures. Each situation will differ depending on the circumstance that is involved, and the lack of understanding and negligence could lead to a bad intervention and treatment of the piece. This analysis was made with the intuition of letting know the procedures and the materials used in the process of restoring the studied plaster piece. Also to emphasize the importance of protecting plaster casts in conservation and restoration. I will mention an intervention made in a sculpture by the King, Fernando II, entitled Marechal Rantzaw. The following interventions have in consideration an identical bronze statue. This bronze statue is a result of the plaster cast sculpture. Therefore, it's the only reason why this intervention was possible in the first place. To understand plaster cast statues, it is important to know how and where they came from. First of all, the artist makes the original piece in clay and then, through molds, creates a plaster cast statue that is exactly the same as the clay model. Therefore, again, through molds and foundry, originates the bronze statue. The purpose of plaster cast statues was only seen as a medium stage to make bronze statues, although nowadays are used to help in reconstructions, as you will see. The plaster cast statue is from the 19th century and is denominated as Marechal Rantzaw, as it was said before. It represents an equestrian statue of General Josias Rantzaw and is in an advanced stage of maturation. It is made of plaster and its internal structures are made from iron and copper alloy. This bronze statue, as it was said before, is the result of the plaster cast statue previously seen. The referred sculptures are located in Pena National Palace in Sintra. This site is the fruit of the creation of the King Fernando II. The king was one of the most cultured men in the 19th century. He mastered several languages and was known as the artist due to his various artworks and appreciation for arts in general. Assis Rodrigues, the other author of the plaster cast sculpture, was a very skillful and meticulous sculptor from the 19th century. The sculpture mentioned represents Marechal Rantzaw of the French armies on horseback. The knight is wearing a featherhead hat, a wooden leg, and his left eye blindfolded with a visor. His left hand holds the reins of the horse, while his right arm is stretched out, giving directions to the soldiers with a stick in his hand. The sculpture was brought from Pena National Palace in Sintra to this university plaster cast sculpture reserve to be intervened. Because of the lack of resources due to the COVID pandemic, the exhibition at Sintra Museum of Arts was delayed. After 3 months, the university opened and the sculpture was finally intervened and then transferred to the museum in Sintra. In October, the exhibition ended and the sculpture was again brought to Pena National Palace, where it's going to be displayed. Each work is evaluated as an isolated case and presents a set of characteristics and pathologies that are related to the environment and treatment conditions to which it was subjected. The sculpture presented some metal oxidation in the internal structure sites, where eventually led to cracks and gaps, as you can see. Through examination methods, it was found some previous interventions made by the owners of the sculpture. These interventions were made with the purpose of giving stability to the sculpture without having the bronze statue as a reference. The understanding of the state of conservation is important and necessary for the development of an adequate conservation and restoration treatment. In order to understand and find new statements about the sculpture and its pathologies, some examination methods were made. This device helps to measure the humidity of the pieces and helps finding any dissimilarities that may occur during the intervention. This method was used in 3 different locations of the sculpture in order to make sure of its measurements. As we can see in the following table, the measurements of the humidity were inside of the limit value. This method allows the viewer to see much closer some imperceptible details to the naked eye, such as the plaster porosity, surface dirt, material texture, cracks, paints, or gaps. This record is made through macro photographs at certain points of the piece, and it helps to confirm all the pathologies identified previously. For the photographic examination under working light, it was necessary to place a light source on its side and the closest to the piece. This method allows a better perception of some other details, such as inscriptions or signature. It allows also to confirm the plaster porosity, surface dirt, cracks, and others. This method of examination aims to obtain information about the possible use of certain pigments in the work, as well as the differentiation of materials used. With the ultraviolet fluorescence, it was possible to identify some materials used in previous restorations, such as an internal structure, as you can see in the first picture. It was made from synthetic material. On the second picture, a glue used to stick the arm in Rantzaw's body. The Dynolith digital microscope allows the identification of different types of materials, as well as the recognition of unusual substances through microphotographic records. This portable equipment projects ultraviolet light, enabling the observation or not of a fluorescence. That is the distinction of different materials or products used. After a closer understanding of the sculpture through the examination methods, the next stage is the treatment of pathologies, starting with the cleaning methods, leading to consolidation, the execution of molds, and finally, the volumetric reconstruction. The sculpture didn't present a high level of dirt due to the fact that they were kept in polypropylene plastic boxes and were located in a stable environment. This cleaning procedure was essential as it was being carried out with the intention of later being intervened. Initially, a superficial cleaning was performed on the plaster cast sculpture. Brushes of various shapes with soft bristles, as well as toothbrushes, were used to reach certain concavities. The use of a vacuum cleaner during this process is essential, not only to help remove the dirt, but also to prevent it from spreading through the parts and the work environment. Afterwards, a solvency test was carried out to understand which solvent had the best result in cleaning some spots. It was understood that the best choice would be acetone, due to ease, effectiveness, and quick dissipation. With the help of cotton swab salts in acetone solution, chemical cleaning was carried out in some parts of the works, and certain stains presented on the base of the piece were removed. This process prevents the material in the internal structure from oxidizing and damaging the surrounding plaster, preventing the plaster from cracking and causing fractures. Previously, all the oxide and dirt existing in the metal of the internal structures were removed using a surgical knife to remove the excess, and then a fiberglass pan, as you can see in the video. After this cleaning, a process of protection of the metal was carried out so it does not oxidize and fracture the plaster again. As it was said before, the plaster cast sculpture originated the bronze sculpture. In this case, it was thanks to the bronze statue that it was possible to make all the reconstructions needed in the plaster sculpture, as I'm showing you. One of the fundamental processes to achieve a faithful reading and a structural and material stability is in plaster pieces are molds. The execution of molds makes it possible to carry out exact and faithful replicas of the original model and later return to the intervening parts. Silicon molds were taken directly from the bronze piece, as you can see, and replace fragments that did not exist in the plaster cast sculpture. If the mold has been applied in an area that is difficult to remove due to difficult access, okay, the video is not working. It is removed with the help of a surgical knife. During this process, it is important to pay attention to the bronze sculpture to not damage it. The next step was filling the mold by injection. This method consists of injecting liquid plaster with the help of a syringe, which makes the plaster reach all the parts existing in the mold and non-existent in the sculpture. After the plaster dries, the mold is separated from the plaster cast with extra careful to not damage it. In this next stage, all the excesses were removed very carefully with a surgical knife. Again, not to damage the plaster cast area. A bubble spike was used, which allowed stability. This material was the most indicated due to its natural permeability, strength, and its thickness, which facilitate the application because of the small size of the fragments. Then, with the help of a mini drill, your waves were carefully drilled at the insertion point, depending on the angle of the rider's leg on the identical bronze piece. This entire process was carried out taking always into account the angle and distance of the leg of the bronze model, so that it was correctly applied. Here we have the before and the after the intervention. And here we have another example of the shoulder of the Marechal. Here also the ears and the horsehair were reconstructed. Again, the feather head and a little bit of the left side of the head as well. The sword was in a really bad condition, and in this case was not used. It was used a different type of molds due to the existence of the bronze sword. Here again we have the example of the hand. And here we have the before and after the intervention. And on the other side, as you had said before, the plaster cast sculpture was brought to an exhibition in Sintra. The first two pictures are without the glass case, and the last picture is with it. This study aims to highlight the importance of plaster cast sculptures and their safeguarding in the world of conservation and restoration. It is important to emphasize the importance of care to be taken in a plaster work, and that this should differ depending on its origin, having in consideration that each work is unique and has its individual issues and uniqueness. In the practice of conservation and restoration intervention, firstly, it is necessary a proper documentation of the work and a correct study of it, in order to find the most adequate solution to the present issues. It's important to emphasize as well that the previous interventions were only possible due to the existence of the identical bronze model made by the artists. Therefore, both the preservation and conservation of an original work, as well as the plaster cast, are essential to safeguard our heritage. Thank you for your attention. I hope you liked it.